Good afternoon. I've been told that a lot of the people today were missing the samosas that we had yesterday, and we got, I think the India International Center, we must write to the permanent director about this lack of samosas. And we were meant to imagine the samosas. We were made to imagine the samosas today. I think yesterday, I think the India International Center took that whole concept seriously and gave us cheese straws instead. So it's a very difficult concept. So we now are going to talk in this session about the iconography. So therefore, please imagine the drawings of samosas, Thangka paintings of samosas. But it's going to be quite a fascinating afternoon, the session. It's the fifth session, and it's being chaired by Phuntsho, whose book I'm sure a lot of you have seen. So can I request you to come on to the stage first? So, and then the other sharing Norboo, Martse, and Tashi Morup. They're coming. Gyetrul, Jigme, Rinpoche, TashiLhendhup, and now I hand over to the chair, Phuntsho, and for obviously a good session. But before we start, as usual, I would like to just thank you so much.
So welcome back from your tea break. One of the things that we might have not managed very well in this conference to live up to Padmasambhava's ideal would be to manage time, to collapse time, and to expand time. And as a chairperson, one of the big responsibilities you have is to manage time. I would like to request the speakers to stick to the time. We have 1.5 hour session, so if you can take 20 minutes each or so to speak and then leave the rest for Q&A, and we can have the discussion like in the past session at the end of the session. So to begin the session, as Arun pointed out, this is about the portrayal of Padmasambhava, the images and the representations through which we can access the inexpressible state of Padmasambhava. And for that, we have three very interesting topics. We have first a duo from Ladakh. We have Tsering Norboo Martse, who is a scholar of language and culture studies, who's a poet, an artist. And then we have Tashi Morup, who is a photographer and a filmmaker, having done quite a number of films, including a film on cultural spaces in Leh, and also a book on Kusho Bakula, that eminent monk statesman from Ladakh that we have all heard of. I think their area is going to cover Padmasambhava through a very modern media of audiovisual technology. So without further ado, let me first invite two of them to give their joint presentation.
Thank you, Phuntsho. So we'll definitely try to finish in time. It's not a very long presentation. We'll just take you through to some of the pictures of 12 different sites of Guru Padmasambhava in Ladakh and the various miraculous feats that he performed in different sites. But before coming to that, let me just give you sort of an introduction about our region. Trans-Himalayan Ladakh region is often called crossroads of High Asia, strategic border area, is full of legends, stories, myths, and often linked to to its interesting geological rock, land formations, and biodiversity. These stories are always told through a superhero. A superhero curbing the menacing creatures, demons, sorcerers, and so forth, and angels as well. For example, in our mythology, we have this warrior king, Ling Kesar, who have also left his all sorts of feats, performances, and we have precise geological sites, geographical sites where he has left his prints and the feats of annihilating and subjugating demons and so forth. And in the slides, we'll also take you to an event where a couple of events where Ling Kesar met actually Guru Rinpoche also. And these stories stem from prehistoric belief system called born tradition. Accordingly, this the people have a strong belief about existence of gods, La, residing in heaven, and subterranean sort of creatures or species, Naga spirits. So along with the human population in Ladakh, there are two other sort of beings who breathe and live within that social milieu. As we say in our Losar celebrations, there are 360 La, 360 Lu. La sungya tukchu, ura thangi, ara thangi, la sungya tukchu, ura thangi, lu sungya tukchu. And in our own lay where I live, we have 13 gods, protective gods. So gods have also have a sort of a rough categorization, sort of a hierarchy that we follow. Like for example, the royal palace protective god is called Gurla. And then household protective god is called Phasla. And then protective god of the valley or the village or the hamlet is called Yunla. So those gods have some dedicated structures called Lato. So we have this strong, very inherent belief system around which a lot of social institutions have developed, and thereby helping us in our social bonding, cohesiveness, intermingling, diversity. Somebody was pointing out the cultural diversity that we have. This is sort of a living culture in our Ladakh. Still, so Guru Rinpoche also visited Ladakh, as we all know, and he recognized this existing cultural milieu early on. And in fact, sort of in his attempts and in his journeys, improvised upon this existing social cultural fabric, the knowledge practices, instead of rejecting them or nullifying them. So if the legends are true, there are many, many in Ladakh about Padmasambhava. Our rich tradition, Khargun, speak of many stories of Guru Rinpoche subjugating and annihilating demons and prophecies made by him. More importantly, there are many sacred sites still in existence linked directly to these legends and actual physical evidences of his prophecies coming true. We have lots of prophecies coming true actually nowadays. It's interesting, another interesting aspect. But we won't go into the prophecies it is made and how it has come true today. But we'll talk about the 12 different sites, one by one, through these slides. At this point, I'd like to invite my senior colleague, senior researcher. He has a lot of knowledge, but there might be a little language constraint. Wherever I can help him, I'll definitely do that. But I'll ask Mr. Norboo to come over and take and go through the slides.
Thank you, Mr. Tashi. I'm going through these tags, so that we can conclude in the time frame. So our first slide is Dutut de Chindal, that is lying in Zanskar, very important place of Guru Rinpoche. So, Dutut de Chindal at Sani in Zanskar is among the 8 great cemeteries in India. So, those days it served as a holy funeral pyres for many from Kashmir even. Local still use it even though the main pyre stone has been shifted to the river side nowadays. It is adjacent to the famous Kanika Stupa that houses a small Ashoka Stupa within the Bhutanese style Sani monastery, which is come under the Stagna monastery in Ladakh. Okay. Then Guru Lolden Chok said, a manifestation of Padmasambhava spends 5 years meditating and giving sermon to the Dakinis while so subjugating demons. Legendary King Kesar was already there. It is said at that time challenging fine and annihilating them. Then number second. Oh. Then Takto Gonpa. The sole monastery of Magyar Nyumapa sect called Chuskur Padmaling Changte traditions is built around a cave used by Padmasambhava to meditate. Opposite to the monastery, across the glacier's melted stream, a safety village lies the footprint and footprint and seat of Guru Rinpoche. Also a rocky outcrop on nearby hillside is believed to be the stubborn organs of the devil Guru Rinpoche disseminated. He then slingshot a stone from there to the present Gonpa site and prophecies about flourishing of monastic orders there. In the 6-month Sishu festival has monk performing Guru Rinpoche's charms, there. Then next, I will put them. Then 8 Hale. Yeah, okay. Then another important place is Gotsang. There is a very important place. At Gotsang Retreat Center, Guru Rinpoche spent 7 months meditating, during which demons disturbed him. He took the front of Guru Nyime Ozer and the form of Guru Nyime Ozer and chased and went ahead of her to hide himself behind a stone at Memorongo. Yesterday, Mr. Mohan Singh also shown that was. As the demons aroused the turn apart their dead falls on Ralpari hills, and then she was eternally goal her to river indust at village end. After the episode, while Guru Rinpoche was leaving, he had another meeting with King Gesar at a spring in Nemorong. The spring god's name is Tendel Chunik. Are the auspicious spring since then Guru Rinpoche was going to Phokar, another important pilgrimage site, devotees among even today. Now next will be.
So I'll just quickly go through. Phokar, another very important site of Guru Rinpoche, in fact considered as the second most important site. At Phokar, while Guru Rinpoche was meditating, a Kashmiri king Gobina visited him after he lost all hopes to cure his disease. So the cause of the disease was found to be a lu there, and which Guru Rinpoche subjugated. And there are, this is one of the most popular pilgrimage sites which has become today. There are several caves like Maratika cave, Sandhu's cave, Stachak Phuk caves, and also, you know, the Khandoma Ige, you can see below, down below on the stone. And then from, after Zanskar, he went on to Skirbuchan. So one of the interesting episodes about Skirbuchan, which is still sort of associated with Guru Rinpoche, is drinking of our local beer, Chang. So in Skirbuchan, it is said that he finished 500 casks, or the what we call Chankal Ngabgya, in one day. And then there's a tree in Skirbuchan, which is unique, sort of a species, which is not found elsewhere in Ladakh. And it just, even if attempts made to grow elsewhere, it won't grow. So the village itself got this name Skirbuchan from that tree only. And from Skirbuchan, he crossed over to the another valley, Domkhar Valley, where he sort of revealed precious objects like Zangi Khipo, Tungi Luk, Lugu, etc. And moved on. From then, moved on to another valley called Tea, which he proclaimed as the sort of the valley of the Buddha Avalokiteshvara, and sort of made sort of a prophecy. And later in the history, actually, this Buddha self-formed image, the idol of Buddha Avalokiteshvara marble statue, just appeared suddenly in that valley, and which is still there for us to have to. And then from Tewa village, we went on to Lukhil village, his saddle spot and shape, which is the village raised sort of hill. There resided the Lugyal Jospo in a circular posture. And he also vanquished demons and then revealed that the place has Setapa deity and Kolodompa, Chakra Samvara. Powerful deities residing there, and then nowadays in the history later on the Galdan monastery, Likin monastery is flourished there, and the order is still there, monk order. And then from Lukir, Rinpoche went on to okay, I just repeated there. In between Yemo and Basgo, there's a mountain, there's a hill called Ngangpari, which is considered, quite close to Mount Kailash, as holy as Mount Kailash, and is sort of blessed that hill also, which during the month, 6th month of the calendar, actually the birds from Ngangpari, from Mount Kailash, come and circumambulate that mountain 3 times and then migrate back without even landing. So that also happens, something mystical about it. And then from there on, then you have Pyang Valley, which is declared as the place of Sri Chenga and Gompo Charok Dongjan and that of Arad. He left his footprints there. And finally, Leh. Leh, just below the Khardungla Motorable Pass, you have these twin lakes, and then very close to the twin lakes on the edge, you have a stupa, which is called Chosku Churten. Actually, he sat on that spot and pointed on, saying that there you see swastika appeared there. And then at that side, this Chosku Churten was built. And then he moved on to the next valley, which is Gyalung Valley of the Leh Valley itself, and wherein he meditated. And then finally moving on to Serti, the Chaktok Gompa, another very important site where we have the Changter tradition of monastic community, which is still flourishing and practicing. And the cave is still there to be seen, and a lot of rituals, and actually we have annual Sishu mask dance or the ceremony which happens there, where actually the biography of Guru Rinpoche is displayed with, by the monks in mask. And then, of course, before that, we have the Sabu village, where there are self-formed 30 letters or consonants of, of Sambhota consonants there. So this is our presentation, just going through some of the important sites of Guru Rinpoche. There are a lot more there, a lot more unidentified, that these are the sites that we've identified, but there are a lot more folklore stories about Guru Rinpoche, which is very much become part and parcel of our culture, and which is also helping, in a way, conserving the biodiversity, building the social relationships. Because we sort of observe this ritual Sishu, which was mentioned by Sri Ngaon Singh yesterday. It's Sishu turnwise by every household in the hamlet. And that brings people together, by reciting the Liu Dunma and Katang Duspa. Katang Duspa has made a lot of prophecies also. Some of the prophecies I've seen in my lifetime come true. Like building of stairs in Kyutak, in the Leh Valley, in the entrance of the Leh itself. This was not there when I was young, it's there now. And then entrance gate from between Choklamsar and Leh, that has also come up. So these sort of prophecies we grow up hearing. And it's seeing them coming true is something also very fascinating. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So thank you very much for that very exciting journey to second landscapes in Ladakh associated with Guru Rinpoche. Now we come from Ladakh down to central India, to Odisha or Orissa. We have Gyetrul Jigme Rinpoche, who is himself a Rinpoche, but also son of one of the most respected living Dharma figures in India today. Jigme. He is the spiritual head of the Padmasambhava Vihara in Chandragiri in Orissa, and Rinpoche is leading two interesting projects in his center, one education and cultural development, the other being engaged Buddhism through social work. So to Rinpoche, talk about Padmasambhava and his works.
Thank you. Respected chair and speakers and all the friends here. Actually, I feel I am here quite by accident, on this session at least, because my colleagues took the better part yesterday, speaking on the easier part, which is about the life and teaching. So I'm left here to speak on the iconographies, which I'm not an expert myself. Nevertheless, I'll try to shed some light on this. But since I'm 3 years old, I have actually lived, breathed, and dreamed and slept Guru Padmasambhava. So here, more than being confident, I feel very blessed to be speaking a little bit about the Guru Padmasambhava. I understand the time constraint is always there, and usually I do not have habit of going over the time. I'll try to do my best, also because I don't have much to read this time. So I'll be brief. It's about the image, symbolism, and visual culture associated with Guru Padmasambhava. So no religious or spiritual icon has left a powerful impact other than Guru Padmasambhava in the hearts and minds of people in the region of the Himalayas, from Nepal, Ladakh, Karsha, Kinnaur, Spiti, Sikkim, Bhutan, Mon, which is now present-day Arunachal, and Tibet. And excuse me if I left out some places here and there, but it's all included within this. As a matter of fact, the arrival of the Guru from the Indian subcontinent during the 8th century transformed spiritual, cultural, and social landscape of the Himalayas forever. Guru Rinpoche tamed and transformed hostile forces and inaccessible terrain of Tibet and the Himalayas region into a most fertile and receptive spiritual land where the Buddha Dharma is fully transplanted. To this day, Himalayan Buddhism remains sole living tradition where all schools of Buddhism, Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana are studied and practiced as fully integrated path. Guru Padmasambhava, as his name suggests, was born from the lotus. Some, of course, do argue that he was born from human parent as well, so we are not going to get into those detail or arguments. Around 8 or 10 years, according to the prophecy of the Buddha, after the passing away of the Buddha, he is believed to have lived in the Indian subcontinent for some centuries, appearing in as many forms as aspects as necessary to accomplish his enlightened activities. During these times, he is known by different names, as you have also been already heard about 8 manifestations and so on. The principal among them are the 8 manifestations. As the Buddha foretold of Dharma traveling to the north, Guru Rinpoche fulfilled his prophecy by making Tibet and the Himalayan region home of his spiritual legacy. However, the material resources of sacred images and visual culture of this iconic Guru before his journey to Tibet and the Himalayas remains scant and non-trustable at best in his home country, basically. Now, there may be 2 reasons, probably from my own limited thinking, what may have contributed to this. We have heard about the Nalanda, we all know about Nalanda, what happened to that huge collection and storage of the libraries and literatures were subsequently burned due to several factors, as is well known. And also the images of the Guru Padmasambhava and other deity figures probably may have resulted in the same fate, I would say, not exactly in the same way, but there's been systematic assimilation of the Buddhist deities into more into the Hinduism's deity around the 10th century. It is well known, documented. So as myself, I've also seen in places like Odisha, there are places which is clearly a Buddhist places with the Buddhist deity, but it's now been transformed, assimilated, and called by different names. So such thing would have happened, not that there has not been a Buddhist statues or deities in India, but today we will not have much things to talk about. So in Jajpur district of Odisha, which I'm from now, anyway, I'm from Odisha, there's a Jatamukha Avalokiteshvara statue, which dated 8th to 9th century, was found with, which is inscribed on his back, 25 lines that clearly mentions name of Padma Prabha, which is sometimes referred to as other name of Guru Padmasambhava. And for this reason, that the Odisha scholars tend to believe that Guru Rinpoche, and not only tend to believe, but strongly argue that Guru Rinpoche Padmasambhava was actually born in Odisha. Now, of course, yesterday we have had another take on it, and quite interesting, though outrageous sometimes, sounds like outrageous though, that Guru Rinpoche being born in Tamil. And so it's also, I think, great thing that the Guru's popularity is gaining somehow, that everybody is making claim on it. This is natural anyway. So I'm actually happy that there are so many Gurus claiming on it. So our best shot yet at identifying the origin of Guru's costume attributes is probably Kingdom of Sahor. Now again, that Sahor, to identify exactly where it is still not so clear. It's still under argument and dispute, I believe so. Rawalsar, commonly now popularly known as Sopema, as the place of the Sahor. I'm still exactly not clear on this. Anyway, When Guru Rinpoche saw his physical image that is to be enshrined in Samye monastery in the 8th century, he is believed to have remarked, "It looked like me." That's a statue which I think many of us have seen, and I saw this morning, I think in Ian Baker's presentation, there was a picture of it. That is probably the most popular, most famous statue of Guru Rinpoche, because Guru Rinpoche remarked, "It looked like me." This statue of Guru is thought to be the first of the visual images and most authentic, and it was approved and blessed by him. Thus bears closest resemblance to the Guru. To the Tibetan and Himalayan audiences, this image and aspect became permanently associated and uniquely identified to Guru Rinpoche. When sacred images of the Guru later emerge as part of Dharma treasure, and most of them have this striking resemblance of the Samye statue. The king of Zahor, around 7th century perhaps, offered his crown, royal costumes, and daughter, Princess Mandarava, to Guru Rinpoche as part of repentance and confession, as the history goes. The Guru appeared unscathed even when put to burn in fire for days. Then the image what the king saw after those days of fire, Guru seated on a freshly blossomed lotus in the middle of the lake, adorned with crown and regal costumes in a majestic pose of fearlessness, would become the universal icon of the Guru Padmasambhava. Based on this representation, I would therefore like to touch upon the following description, a little bit on what I know. Even though the exhibition that is brilliantly displayed upstairs with the collaboration from the Royal Government of Bhutan carries the full picture and image of Guru Rinpoche, so I wouldn't need to have all the pictures here. So you can please have time and have a look at that exhibition. Really wonderful up there. So the portrait of Guru Rinpoche can be with wide open eyes, which is a very special gaze of the Guru, which is considered as a spatial dimensions of Dzogchen, the Mahasandhi, the gaze. He is frequently distinguished by sumptuous cloaks in which we may discern the reflection of some relationship with the Bodhisattva figure as well. If any historical background exists of the legendary biographies of Guru Rinpoche, this should have been represented by the subtle orientation of religious culture of his homeland. The visual and material evidence now starts shedding some light on this issue. To talk about the artistic point of view regarding the many of the rock sculptures and other images that are long remained almost untouched or unrecognized until analytical study highlighted how, with their refined aesthetic and innovative iconographic character, they can be considered the forerunner of themes which blossomed later in Himalayan art. Yeah. For instance, there's a Patachitra, I think probably you know, an art form that still flourishes in Orissa, in a village not so far from the Puri, Jagannath Puri. There's a whole village dedicated to this Patachitra form of art, where many scholars now believe that the Thangka paintings origin may have been from there, the Patachitra canvas painting. So this tradition is still very much alive today in this Orisha's village. So just wanted to highlight that. Now, the common depiction of the Guru is seated with his 2 feet in the royal posture. One can even look here now. Posture, 1 face and 2 hands, serious but smiling. He blazes magnificently with the splendor of the major and minor marks of enlightened qualities, the 5-petal lotus crown on his head with 3 points symbolizing the 3 kayas, 5 colors symbolizing the 5 wisdom, a sun and moon symbolizing skillful means and wisdom, a vajra top to symbolize indestructible samadhi, a vulture's feather to represent the realization of the highest view. His 2 eyes are wide open with a piercing gaze. He has the youthful appearance of 8 or 16 years old. His complexion fair with tinge of red, On his body, he wears a silk cloak, dharma robes, and gown. Right hand holds a 5-pronged vajra holding his heart. Left hand rests in gesture of equanimity as he holds a kapala brimming with amrita containing the vase of longevity that is also filled with amrita of deathless wisdom and ornamented on top by wish-fulfilling tree. The Khatanga now that is resting on his left hand is a particular divine attribute of Padmasambhava and interesting to his 3 kayas. His iconographic presentation, you can always see this. So it's a danda actually with 3 severed heads, denoting 3 kayas, crowned by Trishula and dressed with sash of Himalayan rainbow or 5 pure lights of the Mahabhuta. He is depicted solo or often surrounded by 8 Vidyadharas of India, of course often with the 2 consorts, the famous ones, one from India and Nepal and Tibet, as well as sometimes was depicted with all other consorts as well. In the course of time, the creation and construction of the great Guru's iconic representatives may vary due to cultural and craftsmanship in particular countries. The iconic illustration of Guru Rinpoche, whether in the form of statues made of mud clay or metal cast or carved on the rocks, painted on scrolls, one will find them enshrined in the temples, people's houses, dotted on hilltops, roadsides, lakes and rivers. Not only did the Guru lay the foundation of Buddhism, particularly Vajrayana tradition, but also gave birth to Himalayan Buddhist cultural heritage, which is today the most visible identity of the Himalayan people. Now, despite sometimes our historical differences and views, what actually unites all the Himalayas together is in the reverence of the Guru Padmasambhava. Am I doing okay? Yes. So generally, during the period of Theravada's dominance, till around 3rd century, before the emergence of Mahayana, it is argued that Buddha was not depicted in physical form, but through representation and symbolism as an iconic art. Others do argue that during one of the Buddhist council, after passing away of the Buddha, an old lady who met the Buddha narrated the physical features, and the first known image of the Buddha was carved by master craftsmen. It may also be noted that this marked the transition of the Buddha's teaching as a simple philosophical path into a principal force of a religion. Although there has been considerable scholarly debate about the matters, it seems clear that Buddhists begin to depict the Buddha very early on, perhaps even before his parinirvana, though such images doesn't survive till today. After the emergence of Padmasambhava in the world, the sacred iconic images, visual arts, and ritual culture of symbolism exploded on the back of emerging universal acceptance of Buddhist Tantra and its deity Mandala. With the advent of Bodhisattva's ideal of Mahayana Buddhism from the 5th century onward and eventual emergence of Vajrayana into center stage, at least in the Himalayan region, the visual art or sacred art form took a dynamic shift. The Mandala Principle consists of infinite universe, home of subtle energies and innate awakened state of mind, are manifested in the form of a deity. From a single family to multiple family with retinues, the deities occupy particular space and universe. Each dwell in their own mandala, thus invoking color, magic, and mysticism. For a tantric practitioner, sadhaka or tantrika, to enter into the direct experience of pure vision, now that is a big topic, pure vision, that's what comes into Vajrayana basically. What differs other schools of Buddhism and the Vajrayana Buddhism is mainly the subtle views, dishta, developed on the pure vision. That is where the Maha Yoga, Anu Yoga, Ati Yoga, the 3 intersect that we've been talking about, really carries the heart in it is the pure vision. Mainly how your own mental state becomes purified, your own projection of the world also changes accordingly to that. That is what is called pure vision. Pure vision is not really somewhat imagining something outside being pure, but is a result of a projection of a mind that is in itself pure and primordially, say, clear and luminous. So here we enter into this pure vision. One must be initiated into the mandala by a qualified and accomplished teacher or guru through the process of what is called abhisheka. After that, then one receives essential instructions and the application of sadhana, the sacred text that teaches the practitioner into gradual development of visualization, mantra repetition, and completion with the meditation deity. Perhaps no other country bears testimony to the living tradition of Guru Padmasambhava's sacred visual culture than Bhutan. I may not need to actually highlight a lot here because there has been so much of Bhutan been already spoken yesterday, especially by the Honorable Tashi and the rest of the people. No matter, I feel like saying some things about the Bhutan because it is really a wonderful place to talk about. In fact, Bhutan remains only Vajrayana kingdom in the world. The imposing and majestic Taksang, tiger's nest, a place where Padmasambhava manifested a Gyetrul, a fierce and wrathful form of Guru riding on a tiger's back, subdued the negative spirits and opposing forces, therefore laying the ground for the founding of Kingdom of Bhutan. The Guru watches over the well-being of the people of Bhutan ever since. The Guru were, the Paro Kichu temple and Bunthang Kuji temple are among the most ancient places of pilgrim, bearing impeccably preserved images, murals, and body prints of Guru Rinpoche. Most of these historical places are named after him or one of his manifestations. The biggest religious events in the calendar of the kingdom is Sechu, as you have heard a lot about that. This commemoration of the Guru Rinpoche, Padmasambhava's birth, life, and enlightened activities. Most popular among them are the 8 manifestations of Guru Rinpoche. I was very sorry to say that our Venerable Negi couldn't have time to actually explain on the description of the 8 manifestation and the meaning of the Vajra Guru mantra. That was, I think, was really missing in this conference. It's so important, it's the heart of it. Anyway, the Guru Rinpoche's story is retold on this day, the Sechu Day, through rich tapestry of costume, mask, music, dance, ritual objects, and mantras, performed in a vibrant and visual splendor, bringing forth an air of spiritual climax, leaving audience with a renewed sense of hope, faith, and blessings. A visual culture that can be merely experienced by living it. I think it's very important to understand that one has to live the culture, one has to live the experience to really understand and appreciate what it is. We have these 2 days sometimes on a very intellectual sense of talks and journey, which is, of course, very good to present cases, but we must have a feeling about it because the feeling makes a difference. Feeling brings that experience, and therefore living the culture, to live the culture makes a big difference of what really means the life and legacy of Guru Padmasambhava, and Bhutan is one country that actually lives it. So, in conclusion, I think I'm quite okay on time. Perhaps Air India should employ me. In conclusion, I would like to say, no doubt, that the sacred visual arts and culture do play a significant role in all religious traditions, instilling faith, inspiring the devout to remain firm on the path, reminding them of higher purposes in life, a sense of belonging, and providing refuge in times of distress. Whether one is well versed in scriptures or even able to read them, visual images and visual culture is easily connected and accessible to all. From the perspective of academic field, visual culture provides ample room to peek into sociology, anthropology, and history of the past society, and help us better understand on geopolitical and socio-economic structure of the present day. Most in the South Asian countries, actually most of the South Asian countries are an example of how religious visual culture shapes and colors every aspect of spiritual and temporal life. To study and understand this visual culture and their symbolism help us to gain more wisdom and respect for diverse, sacred visual culture that has a positive influence on society and humanity at large. Now, I also saw that that we have so many things to talk about the Himalaya, and there's no doubt, there's no actually question of any urgency that the legacy of the Guru is not living in the Himalayan region. There's plenty of life being infused there, but the real point is how much it is known in its host country, India. That's the main challenge. I would like that this conference draws on that, how to bring the awareness of the legacy of the teaching and life of Guru Padmasambhava into the vast consciousness of the Indian population. I think that is really important. That's what I really hope that this conference will make a connection. There is no such urgency or danger at all in the Himalayan region. We are living Guru Padmasambhava. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gyetrul Rinpoche, on that really important note at the end. And you are responsible also of bringing back this culture in middle of India, in Orissa. Your presentation was very lucid, art historical analysis of the Guru Rinpoche figure. Now we go back again to the hills. We have TashiLhendhup from Bhutan. Tashi got traditional monastic education before he joined the National Institute for 13 Arts and Crafts. He specialized in fine arts at this institute, and he is today the premier, the foremost art conservator in the country. And Tashi will talk about Guru's image in Bhutan.
Respected Chair, respected Chair, and the co-speakers. So on this gracious occasion, in the presence of your Venerable Tsogla and the Rinpoches and other distinguished guests, it's my pleasure to present the paper on iconography of Guru Rinpoche. Your Eminence has highlighted all the historical and iconographical details of Guru Rinpoche, which has made it much easier for me. So it is, in my presentation, it would cover more on visual presentation, so which would even clear more about your presentation. To start with, it is like with the iconography, we always have the scales, and then we have like how to proportion the image within the specified space. So we have like, so the artist usually stick to the 8 lines that orient the image within the space. So the first thing is like the samthik, which is the vertical line that comes along the central, and then we have that tetik, which goes horizontal perpendicular to the central line. And then we have the 2 diagonals, which would let us to divide the horizontal and the diagonal to come into 90 degree or 45 degrees to this angle. And then we have the 4 border lines, which would space the whole composition of the painting. And then when we talk about the iconography, on how we define to have the images of different sizes. In brief, there are 2 units of measurement. We say that's Gyetrul, which is a smaller unit, and then the Jacheng, which is larger unit. But this measurement units doesn't like strict to like what we have like in inches or centimeters. It is they are merely used to indicate the proportional relationship to each other, each sacred images. be that the image be 100 feet or 1 feet tall, the unit would always be like specified within, divided from the length what we have for the face shell set. So the chacheng would always have 12 chachu, which is called sormo. And then if we go on to make a large large images, then we have like, we go to micro ones, like we have lekpa, which the 4 limbs of lekpa would make 1 sormo. So 1/4 of the sormo is called the 1/4 of the sormo is called kampa, which sorry, it's not like, and the half of that is termed as grain, which is na. When we have that Guru Rinpoche to be drawn, it is like we usually divide the estimate, like we have the four length of the width and then 5 length in the height. But here I have demonstrated like different sormos for the whole image from the head to the lotus. So which means this would cover more of the squares, the 4 which would be 5 squares, but it would cover around 11 squares in the vertical portion. But when we have this image of Cherbu of Guru Rinpoche, we take it from the face, which would take 12 sormo, the neck would be 4 sormo, the chest would be 12, the stomach 12, then the hip would come for 4, the thighs to the pubic zone would be 8 sormo, and then the cross-legged and the lower knees would have 4 each. But for the lower disc, the lunar disc seat, we would measure for 8, and then which is 12 sormo for the lotus seat. If you go horizontal, it is like the spine to the armpit is 12 sormo, the armpit to the elbow is 20 sormos, and the forearm would be 16 sormos. And then the hand as usual, which is the actual length to the face, is 12 sormo. So it's a divided proportion for the face. So like the face would have, in width, it would have 12 sormos, and then on to the height, it would have 12 sormos. But it is divided in the middle. It is divided into 4 others. Like the eyes fall into the 1 sormo, and then the nose would have the length of like 2 sormos. The image here is like looks little larger, but the face towards the chin would sometimes have the shape like the egg, oval like the egg. So this is, so how to distinguish the image of Guru Rinpoche? It's like your Venerable has already blessed with all the details. So it is here I would show more on the visual. It is, Guru Rinpoche is distinguished by his boots, his head, upturned lappets, sits enthroned on the moon disc on top of the colorful lotus. His head has known as Ugin Pesha with upturned lappets, sun, moon symbols, half vajra, and the single vulture feather. His right hand grabs the 5 prolonged dorji, while his left hand holds the skull cup. Leaning against his left shoulder is the khatamga, staff consisting of the 3 heads of various stages of Tiki, representing victor over the 3 poisons, the desire, anger and ignorance. Long life ways and the double dorji tied with the flowing white scarf. The Guru wears the dorjigong and richly decorated brocades. The appearance of Guru Rinpoche appears as youthful, his face filled with smile of joy as he is untouched by pain and sorrow. His loving and powerful, widely open eye looks after and sees all with his omniscient wisdom. Unconditionally love and boundless power all the time. His complexion is white with reddish hue, symbolizing his enjoyment of the emptiness. The Guru's head has 5 petals, symbolizing that he is empowered by all the 5 classes of Buddha. The lotus head and the brocade clock also symbolizes his miraculous power, as they were offered to him by the king of Zahor, along with the princess Mandala. So as Rinpoche mentioned, it is like the dress codes of Guru Rinpoche were from the Zahor. So here, Guru Rinpoche always has the chego, and then he also has the pego, and sometimes it is shown double fagos, and sometimes the scarf is also shown double with the normal and the elaborated one, the dagam on the outer one. Guru Rinpoche is always mainly shown with his 2 consorts, and then that's Mandala on his right and Hishisogel on his left. Guru Rinpoche and his 8 manifestation, that's more largely seen within all the monasteries and houses, murals of the houses in Bhutan. So this is how the 8 manifestations of Guru Rinpoche would look. Guru Rinpoche is also shown in his Sangdaperi, the glorious copper-colored mountain. This is Guru Pema Juni, the lotus pond. As Rinpoche mentioned, like when Zahor king has tried to burn Guru Rinpoche, they've fired it turned into the lotus where Guru Padmasambhava turned. After that, he was named as Guru Pema June as part of one of the manifestations in the 8 manifestations. This is Guru Padmasambhava with his 25 disciples. Guru Rinpoche manifested based on the prayer's spontaneous fulfillment of wishes by Tulku Sangpo. This is the painting where it depicts all the story of narration of the TashiLhendhup. So in TashiLhendhup, this is a painting at Changangha Monastery. So this on the left we have this Devachin. So it's like Nukchuk Devachin ki Shingamsu Nawate Tuji Jilabi Tiku Pema Juni Jilapte Sambiling to Roidelajan to the Jinchim Bitujin. So it narrates like in Devachin blissful pure ruling of the West, the compassion of Amitabha surged. His blessings took the form of Padmasambhava, who came to this world to bring benefit to the beings. So on the right, it's Gabotisum de Zimenchen, Chuji Tunchi Talamatong, the Sunjinchim Nabar Jingle, Begi Chichun, Gelbe Ninjipu, Gelbo Chichun, Tujijin, who can Pema Junela, Sewan, the Sambal Hingi to Jingle. So here we have like the all the Dharma kings from Trisong Desen onwards, until the every end of the royal line, throughout past, present, and future. You show your compassion. You are the single guardian of Dharma king. So in this picture, it shows, in this mural, it shows Trisong Desen and his lineage to extend to be the Dharma kings. The another stance of TashiLhendhup reads like, "Kanshishimimagi thakone senjanebe dipshin nyambana inithasum never so on the ugin dorji gurda dema shema denji senja thorwajur." So when being surrounded by hordes and enemies who threaten with sharp weapons, the Ugin with Vajra trained will terrify the enemies and disperse the weapons. So in this mural, it is shown like the Ugin Dorji Gurda Demba. It's a circle of halo with the Dorjis, and then like disperse the enemies and their weapons back. In here, I want to show is like the Guru Rinpoche. It's in the 13th style. He has also double chego, which means he has his inner blue chego and then the outer chego. Pego, not chego, sorry. So in here we see like Guru Rinpoche has even the Shamthap, where Guru Rinpoche tends to form in the compassionate form of Bodhisattvas. The dresses, the pego of the Guru Rinpoche overlay in different directions on many murals and statues within the Buddhist countries. So it's here like I want to show the right overlay and the left overlay of the pego. This is the Guru Rinpoche painting of Guru Tsokhosum at Tamshing Monastery. So, Tamshing Monastery is one of the most important religious centers in Bhutan, owing to its associations with the founder of Tertin Pema Lingpa, the figure of immense importance in Bhutan. It was built in 1500 and situated in the heart of Bumtang. It contains one of the most, certainly the oldest wall painting scheme in the kingdom, dating from the beginning of 16th century. Its style is unique in Bhutanese wall painting, reflecting influence from the Western Himalayas. It was painted directly on earthen plaster using mineral pigments. So it has the most simpler form of the dresses worn by Guru Rinpoche. And this is also another form of Guru Rinpoche, which has the more simple dresses, and it is from the Tagal Hagang in Bumtang, which was built by Lam Ngok Din Ngok Cheko Dorji, the principal recipient of Marpa's explanatory lineage, and particularly important in Marpa's transmission of the Hivarajra Tantra. Ngok Cheko Dorji also founded Langmalung Hagang in the down valley of Bumtang. These murals were also painted directly on the earthen plaster. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tashi, for this very detailed presentation on the iconometrics behind Guru Rinpoche images that we see. It's a very nuanced, intricate presentation, and also showing us, giving us tips on how to identify Guru Rinpoche in different contexts. Now, I think my speakers have done so well in their timing, so we're very proud of that. I think we'll master the art of time management quite soon. So we have got about 20 minutes for questions and answers. We had from Ladakh a very detailed, interesting presentation on how Guru Rinpoche has shaped landscapes there and how that is having immense ecological and socio-economic ramifications in our times. And then we had Rinpoche talk about the meaning and symbolism of Guru Rinpoche figure, and particularly his message of how that the awareness of Guru Rinpoche should come back to the land of origin, India. And TashiLhendhup showing how diverse and colorful Guru Rinpoche figures and art representations can be across the Himalayan world. So on any of these three topics, to our four speakers, if you have questions, please, but do introduce yourself and keep the questions to the point. Yes, sir. Please. Is there a microphone going around? We need it here in the second row.
Perhaps to the panel, to Gyetrul Jigme Rinpoche. But you know, since Professor Lokesh Chandra addressed us yesterday and said Udayana is a Tamil word and Kanchi is the Sanskrit equivalent of that, with a strong suggestion that the origin may be from Tamil Nadu. Now, Rinpoche has mentioned that there is also a suggestion that he was born in Odisha, right? Now, there is evidence of his presence in the north. But to get to the north from Tamil Nadu, you have to traverse the entire vertical from the south to the north. Now, we find evidence in Odisha. I'm just wondering, now, you know, because the Guru Padmasambhava, as a unifying symbol in this country, it just occurred to me that for the Himalayan Buddhism, other than its origin from Tibet, Guru Padmasambhava is a unifying symbol for the entire Himalayan and Tibet, and also Khotan and you know, those other places in Central Asia. So I'm just wondering, are there other evidences obtaining elsewhere from India which suggest his presence in those places and therefore reinforce the idea that his origin may have been in Tamil Nadu?
Yeah. Sorry. I think we are dealing with a figure that is actually part divine, part human. So it's always a struggle, you know, trying to define exactly in our own limited mind and in a conventional mind level. I think historians and scholars have always struggled between the two, sometimes trying to bring a divine figure into a human level, and sometimes bringing a human into a divine level, and a lot of confusion in between. So Guru Rinpoche figure is, of course, universal, and someone even rightly called a timeless guru, because the fact that from the birth of the Guru Rinpoche, which is right after 8 to 10 years after the Buddha, till visiting Tibet, it has already been past almost 10 centuries in between. So it is so clear that Guru, out of the 8 well-known manifestations, majority of this manifestation was manifested in and around subcontinent India. There are only 2 manifestations, that is the Guru Rinpoche Padma Jungne, that one that came to in Tibet, and one who took the form of a fearful Dorje Trole are the two major figures that he actually manifested in the Tibet and the Himalayan region. So the 6 others are pretty much manifested in and around India and the subcontinent. So it is so much a wide gap of time that it could be well that he was born in one places and in a different form, in a different attitude, and then he passes away in another place. So from that angle, we could say that yes, he was born in every places, yeah, in India, every places. And I'm actually not startled, but it's a fact that waiting to be discovered. That yes, Guru Rinpoche is possible to be born in every places in India and elsewhere, because he is a timeless Guru. So from that point, now coming to the historical fact, yes, there is a strong suggestion, at least my colleagues in Orissa like to argue a lot in the fact that the Guru Rinpoche was born in Orissa. Now, how far it is really reliable or verifiable, I don't know, but the fact is that Orissa and Andhra are the two belts that played an important role as the cradle of Vajrayana or Tantrayana Buddhism, and hold as the last flame of Buddhism in the subcontinent. So from there, I think there's a strong argument to say that. Now, of course, Tamil things claim is something very new to me personally, and I will look into it. I don't know exactly. And the Swat Valley is, of course, well known from the beginning. As far as we are concerned in the Himalaya, is always Swat Valley that has been connected to as the birthplace of Buddha or Guru Rinpoche. Probably in the course of time, I think we will hear more and more of the places. So I cannot exactly say for now. Thank you.
Perhaps 2 small things. One is philologically, in terms of language. We say he was born in Udayana. If that is a Tamil word, which I'm sure, Professor Lokesh Chandra is an authority.
Yes.
So if that be the case, then philologically there must be some exactitude,
Yes.
to that. And as you well know, Rinpoche, Bengal, Bihar, Odisha, as you call it, was all Vihara.
Mm-hmm.
And the term Bihar is a corruption of Vihara.
Mm-hmm.
The present term, as we call it, Bihar, is a corruption of Vihara. So, absolutely. And last couple of years back, when we arranged for teachings, the Nalanda Shiksha arranged for teachings by His Holiness at Dharamsala, we had a contingent from Tamil Nadu.
Mm-hmm.
And a very strong contingent from Tamil Nadu who see, this is something that at least I didn't know anything about. We've all heard that Bodhidharma was from Tamil Nadu,
Mm-hmm.
but they said that there was a flourishing Mahayana presence in Tamil Nadu. And they said that at different stages, in different centuries, this tradition virtually had to go underground because of persecution, etc. So yes, this entire Vihara and Tamil Nadu, it's very interesting possibilities.
Absolutely. I don't rule out that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I may take the liberty of being the chairperson and throw some comments on this topic. Now, it was rather explosive for Professor Lokesh Chandra yesterday to declare Kanchipuram as Odiyana. I've come across that, but I think so far there's no detailed published argument from his side proving that. Whereas there's already one volume on Orissa or Otisha. If you haven't come across this book, it is written by or compiled by somebody called Dr. Mohante. It's a compilation of many articles and has been recently translated into Dzongkha in Bhutan and launched about a month ago. Then, of course, there is a lot of publication on Odiyana, or Swat Valley is Odiyana. It's not just Waddell, who Professor Lokesh Chandra referred to yesterday. Austin Waddell perhaps was the earliest scholar But then you had the Italian Tibetologist Giuseppe Tucci, who has done rigorous study on it. You have Tucci, yes. And even today, you have lots of people like these art historians and archaeologists, people like Deborah Klimberg-Salter, a lot of archaeologists working on the Swat area and arguing that there has been a strong Vajrayana culture in the Swat as much as there was in other parts of India. So I think the fact that there was Vajrayana in parts of India doesn't necessarily substantiate the fact that Guru Rinpoche could be from that place. And in fact, for a historian, there's at the moment no conclusive evidence that Guru Rinpoche lived in India ever. Thank you. Can emerge, yes. We're open to inquiry.
When we are talking, I'm Bhavani Dixit from World Focus. When we are veering around to many places, not concentrating on any particular issue, when Rinpoche ji told about Odisha, Odisha doesn't mean Odisha of present Odisha. It is relating to Udyana, and we are deriving that from Udyana, it may be Odisha. If we concentrate on place, it is Sambalpur in Odisha. Sambalpur, Sambalaka, King Indrabhuti, and King Indrabhuti's Jnana Siddhi, all are related to Padmasambhava. From Odisha, from Sambalpur, he went to propagate Lamaism, Tibetan Buddhism. That's what our Odia literature says. Unfortunately, there has not been many research in Odisha itself. So I request all of you, all scholars present here, without having any bias for any Tamil Nadu, Odisha, Pakistan, Himalayan kingdom, let us all do serious research. 2000 years we cannot go back. Research is also very difficult. Assumptions are very easy. My point is, Padmasambhava went from which place? It is very difficult to prove now. Birth is immaterial. But let us think and assume that he was from Odisha. Let us say. So, and to prove that, we have to authenticate. It can be authenticated.
Thank you.
It may be difficult.
I'm all with you, sir. I think just wanted to add a few things here is that all the ruins of the ancient monasteries that are unearthed in Orissa, you may have heard about that the three triangle of the Buddhist places, Ratnagiri, Udagiri, all of this, Lalitagiri, they bears a lot of resemblance and references to the past Buddhist glory, particularly of the Mahayana and then eventually the Vajrayana Buddhism. Because there the particular feature is the Buddha is seated next to each other, not by the usual depiction of the two monks from the, as we see Shariputra and Mangalyana, but is always with two bodhisattvas next to the Buddha. So this is a clear indication that it was a Mahayana tradition that thrived at that time. So it's thousands of years back. And then all the artifacts that have been discovered in Odisha of tantric deities is the solid proof that there was a Vajrayana pretty much in abundance, and it was actually known as the cradle of the Vajrayana Buddhism. So there's no doubt about that. As far as the Padmasambhava's exact birthplace is concerned, we still have to look into the fact, and still more discussion should follow. I think that would be very nice. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Much of this legacy of Buddhism itself, when I'm not speaking of Guru Padmasambhava's legacy, has been obliterated in the south of India. For example, in the Madras Museum, the Madras City Museum, there are the most wonderful Chola bronzes of the Buddha. In, Bhumi Sparsha, very beautiful Chola bronze, which means at a time when Shankara's philosophy had really gained ground, still Buddhism or these things were being produced by the same people. In fact, I really have a theory that this bronze casting of images actually came from central India, which is that Orissa, central Indian tribal belt where the Asurs are, because they still do the bronze casting in the forests using charcoal, not coal. And because the whole Buddhist area where iconography and image casting developed is from there, Chhattisgarh and all these places still have these live village bronze casters. And the other thing is, Lokesh Chandra has also shown how Vishakhapatnam, very near the port, has thrown up a huge monastic complex. And we all know about Amravati. So, I mean, many of these things have been completely buried and forgotten, either deliberately or through time.
Thank you. Thank you for the comments. Anyone else?
Yes.
We can take one or two more questions. Yes, sir.
Just I want to add one information in this regard to substantiate Dr. Bhavani Shankar Dikshit's that is assumption that already Acharya Narendra Dev in his Bauddha Dharma Darshan has identified Uddiyan with Odisha. This should be taken seriously. That's my thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. The mic. Narendra Dev.
Triumvirate asking questions here. Mainly for Rinpoche. Rinpoche, you spoke about feeling and having this feeling about Guru Rinpoche, which seems to make a lot of sense. So in your understanding, is the clear visualization more important in the tantric practice, or the sense of pride or feeling that you have? Since there's so much emphasis on iconography and detail, very great detail, but what would you say for beginners and distracted people like me? Maybe some other people here also. What's more important, that sense of the feeling or of the clarity when we are visualizing? Trying to visualize.
Yeah, me too. I'm trying to visualize as much as I can. I think that we could always approach any of the spiritual path through intellectual or study base, or through practice base. So when we approach through study base, usually, of course, we do not need to invoke a deep feeling somehow. There's always a sense of thinking and thought process and working on it. But if we want to make it a little bit more deeper connection to our study, to our objects of study and subjects of study, I think it has to have some kind of feeling towards that. And because through feeling, you begin to have a sense of heart or emotions opening to the object, to the figure, or to the story. And it is very difficult without touching the heart, any spirituality would actually begin or start to open. And that is why I think feeling is important. Also, other thing is that as a teacher myself, I'm not a qualified teacher though, but as a teacher, I've found that whenever, when I teach something, whatever I know, if I teach something, if I am teaching it with a feeling involved, then I find there is more truth in it. There's more sense of authenticity or honesty in it. Now, of course, I can also be teaching a lot of things without much feeling into it. And that probably can make a difference to the way I relate to the subject and to the way people feel about it. So for this reason, I find even when I visualize and visualizations, it's so important to have some kind of feeling, because visualization, there's a deity there nobody knows anyway. There's no real ways to just prove that, the deity exists here exactly. But you have to have some ways of feeling it. Only then it can become a reality. So that is my point. Thank you.
So, Rinpoche, thank you very much for that response. If it's of any benefit, may I also share, maybe you're already familiar with this, but in doing deity visualizations, especially in the Nyingma and the Kagyu traditions in Bhutan, we talk about Daksel Tensum, the threefold techniques of clarity and of seeing the image as a symbol for a meaning, and then of having the pride that you are truly that deity. So clarity is not compromised by the sense of feeling, I think, that there should be clarity, selva and dakpa, that understanding that you're not visualizing a deity that's opaque and real and absolute, but rather a manifestation of emptiness, and then the pride, that the conviction that you are truly Padmasambhava and not just faking one. Anyway, with that, I would like to bring this session to a closure. It was a very interesting, rewarding session. Thank you, all the speakers. Let's give a round of applause to the 4 speakers. And also, thank you all for patiently sitting here. And I know you're now going to rush to your lunch, so sorry for keeping you